So I'm in the process of building a dresser and I'm kind of busy, but I wanted to take some time out to show you two jigs that are indispensable for me in my workshop. Let me show you what they are. The first jig I want to show you is this guy right here. I wonder what it's for. Well, let me show you. It goes on my bench. So when I built my bench, I drilled holes for bench dogs here, and also here and here, thinking that if I had a large panel, I could clip it in the vise here, and then it could be supported down here. But what I didn't think of is if I had a panel that's about yay big, and I want to joint it. For example, if I put this in like this, I can take this panel, this is the side of the dresser that I'm making, by the way, I can put that in there, clamp it in the vise. So now this is completely secure. Unfortunately, it's a little too high for me to joint the edge, okay? So I need to lower this down. However, I have nothing down here to support it. So that's where this little baby comes in right here. Now, what I did was I took a piece of wood and I measured from the floor up to the bottom of my vise. Let me take this piece of wood out so it's a little easier to see. So this fits between the floor and the bottom of the edge of my vise, excuse me, the edge of my bench perfectly. Now, what I did was, in the top, I drilled a hole straight down. I put 3 holes for bench dogs here, and then I built this little funny contraption, which I'll show you in a second. The way you use this is you secure it to the bench with a hold down, hold fast, like that. So now I have 3 holes here. So now to joint this board, I just put the bench dog in here, and then I hold it in the vise, and now it's at a perfect height to joint this edge. But what if I want to cut a dovetail, or a half-blind dovetail? Now, my vise is strong enough that it will hold the board this way, but I'm the type of guy that likes to have a little extra reassurance. So what I do is you move this over to underneath the vise, put that in like that, and that's where this contraption comes into play. This allows me to adjust the height to whatever I need it. So if the board is really long, I can put it all the way down here, and then I can stand the board up. Rest it on there, and then clamp it in. And now this is completely secure. That ain't going anywhere, and I can cut my dovetails or whatever, no problem. So how did I make this? Well, it's really quite simple, so I don't really think I need to make a video on it. It's 2 pieces. First, you take a piece of wood and you measure from the floor up to the bottom of your bench, wherever you need it. Then you got to drill a hole down lengthwise from the top, if you want to secure it using your holdfast, that is. These grooves, I put a mark about every 5 centimeters, and then I drew 45-degree lines from that mark. Is about a ½ inch down, and then used a handsaw to cut them all out. This is just a block, as you can see, with 2 pieces of wood on each side, and I have pins holding them together. Then this slides, let's see here, which way I want it. This slides on like that. And then basically gravity keeps it in place, and the weight of the workpiece. So, very simple. So the second jig I want to show you is something that I built to help me when I'm marking out the dovetails for drawer rails on the front of a carcass. And let me show you how this works. So I have the side of my carcass, and I have one of my drawer rails with the dovetail on the end, okay? And normally, if I were to mark this, I would put it in the vise like this, using the first jig that I built, and then I would put this up against and let it fall and mark out my dovetail. Unfortunately, as you probably have just noticed, I don't have room. This doesn't reach. So that means that I have to do this the other way, with this board facing out this way. And the problem with that is when I put this on here, now it's really flimsy. It's unsupported, and it's very difficult for me to hold this in place while marking out the dovetail. So what I made is this jig. I used the clamps actually from the mortise jigs that I made the other day because I don't need those anymore, and I can always make more. And let me show you how this works. First, we have to raise the panel because this doesn't need to be that low anymore. So we're going to put it up here. I'm going to turn this around. Now, I take my jig, and I've already put 2 marks here and here that are the width of this dado, which is where the rail is going to sit. I'm going to bring this over and temporarily clamp it in place, like so. Then I take my rail, I put it up against this guide board, and I put it into the dado, and then I clamp it down. Then all I have to do is move this a little bit up so that it is perpendicular with the carcass, clamp that down tight, and now I can mark out my dovetails. So this is held firmly in place, it's perpendicular and perpendicular this way, and then I can take my marking knife and use both hands to very carefully mark out the dovetail. Easy peasy. So this jig build was also one of those things that I really just put together, and then after I built it decided to make a video on it. So there's nothing about the making of this, but I will hold it up here so you can see exactly how it works. What I did was recess the top board in the flat board, which goes against the side of the carcass, and then it's basically just a square. I have a guide block on top that I'd use to put the rail against to make sure that that's going to be perpendicular to the carcass when I attach it. And then I have a clamp here to hold that down, hold the rail down, and then another clamp here to hold it against the carcass. So there you go. Extra support here just to keep everything at a 90-degree angle. And there you go. So I hope that was useful to somebody that has a small shop like me. It would be great if I had a large bench or an assembly table that I could just clamp or clamp the side of the carcass into the end of the table and then use the table as my support while I mark out my dovetails. But unfortunately, my bench isn't set up that way, and I don't have the room in my shop to do that. So this is what I came up with so that I could easily mark out the dovetails without having the thing all playing around on me and having to hold it with one hand and do all that type of stuff. So I hope that was helpful to somebody, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.